We are looking at the micro series Leonardo from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle creators Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. An absolutely fantastic issue. Can't wait to break this down with them.
Welcome to your favorite YouTube channel, Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Ed Piscor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
We have a special episode today. We're going to be looking through Leonardo, issue number 1 of the micro series. We have the creators, Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird, and our brother from another mother, David Choe, in the house as we crack this baby open. And right off the bat, dude, with the cover, we're still keeping the Ronin motif.
I'm going to get ready.
Oh, shit, there he is.
Get ready for this. This is my kid, so it's a little bit small, but I get it right.
There it is, man.
Is this offensive to you, Kev, or are you okay with it?
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you I have one too. I'm glad you're wearing it because otherwise I'd have to. So.
So yeah, man, we're still in with the Ronin motif with all the hatching and stuff. This is an interesting looking cover. Is this a Peter Laird or is that turtle Peter Laird turtle?
It is.
Whoa, there it is.
Not here. Wow.
This is I keep getting this wrong. Again, I was like it's one of my favorite of many Peter Laird covers. Number 10 is one of my favorite Peter Laird covers besides number 4 or Donatello.
I just realized, can you put it up again, Kev?
Me too. I just realized it too.
Realized that shredder back there.
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude.
Well, this is so much like sorry, the angle's weird.
Oh my god, I just realized that.
As I mentioned that where's my Donatello? I mean Leonardo.
Okay, did you just realize?
Yeah, I never put that. Oh man.
Yeah, it's the eye. As soon as you see the eye on the spread, it's like it comes into pure focus.
So much like with all the other things, I had the system of Peter
that file out.
And I have these very specific folders of that contained everything from a printed copy of the book, any sketches, any notes, any stuff that Pete and I did at the time on that issue. I would throw them into it just for archival stuff. And one of the things I liked about this particular Pete Laird cover is that and I'm not sure why we went back to the black border on this. Do you remember, Pete? Because I love it. I think it looks great. We hadn't done it in a number of issues, but we wanted this issue for some reason to go back to that style.
I don't recall.
Yeah. Did we do that with issue 9? Because Donatello was that great cover you did. I don't, it's one of those things that because maybe, I wonder if it was because when you did this drawing, and I remember you did a hand painted version of it, which is the one, the color version you see, which is, I don't think did you color on the original or was it on a photocopy?
I'm pretty sure that was on the original.
Because you did, you had the original ink work, which you did in so much detail. Then it was kind of a wash on the background. Mm-hmm. Then it looks like you literally went in with acrylics and painted in Leo and the ninjas on top of, again, based on the drawing that was done, you painted on top of it. So
you're right. That I believe was inspired by something you were doing with artwork at that time.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
This is a fantastic comic, guys.
Yep.
This thing freaking rules.
One last note on the cover, and it's just an observation, but the contrast between having very little line work on your foreground figures versus the heavily hatched background, that contrast really makes those figures pop. And yes, great cover.
Nothing to give away that it's like you guys didn't market it or give away that this is basically a Christmas issue.
I was thinking, I was wondering, just a final wrap on the cover. I wonder if we decided to do the black border because I don't think I wanted to. I think we both looked at it and I didn't want to cover. We didn't want to cover any of the art with the logo.
Oh, that's a good point.
Oh yeah, then you wouldn't have seen that shredder, which
you couldn't see all the coolness and for this issue, I think the idea that happened at Christmas, but this issue was approached very specifically, and I want to say chronologically, I think Donatello came before this one as a one shot. But we're going to cover Donatello as next time. But I think Pete and I had talked out and mapped out after issue 9, which was a kind of a preteen turtle story that Pete that we wrote, but Pete did the layouts and Mike did they finished the stuff. But this was going to be a 3-part wrap up of a bigger storyline that would end with issue 11. And so, as opposed to this being just a very singular, unique individual adventure featuring one turtle like Raphael and the introduction of Casey, Michelangelo with our Donatello, of course, the Kirby issue. This was definitely designed to lead into issues 10 and 11.
And it was certainly very seamless too, because this issue is included in the first color reprints, and it was the first comic that I scooped up from Ninja Turtles, man. So this would probably be like the opening story to kind of get us into that particular story. So this is one of those that I know super well, but you really need the black and white. You really need Leonardo issue 1 because of the motif that you guys have built in here, where you have the top 2/3 of the page is the Leonardo portion of the story told in duotone, and then you have the singular panels at the bottom that is sans mechanical gray, and then that will be like the scene of domesticity. It's cleaner, it's less gritty, and there's not any of the mechanical grays.
And also, I don't know if you were aware of this or could tell by the artwork, but that was all those bottom panels were inked by Jim Lawson.
Good to know.
I don't want to spend too much time on this part, but this intro letter, I always love these editorials.
Absolutely.
And really focuses on like a reflection of 1986 comic scene, which I had just done a zine about. I love that year. And it's great to see you guys kind of reflecting on where those are at, both the black and white explosion, maybe going the wrong direction, but also noting like what else is going on that's exciting, like Watchmen, Swamp Thing, Dark Knight. You know, it's kind of a great assessment of 1986 as the year in comics.
No, I'm sorry.
Actually, before anybody continues, I'd like to ask Kevin something.
Of course.
If you can remember, you recall who had the idea of doing that thing, the layout with the 2/3, the Leo story, and then the bottom third being the Christmas story at home with the turtles?
My recollection is that something that we decided on together, and the idea was, I think I and like we would talk about different ideas and approaches or things that we wanted to try in comics, either stylistically or otherwise, and we had done. I'm trying to think. I did one, and there was another story where we done a story or two, short story, where we told the whole story without any words, no words at all, no dialogue, no anything. And so, and as we were at this point, we had decided we were going to bring back the Shredder as a character. It's something that we held off from because we had talked about and agreed early on in issue 1 that we wouldn't. Once Shredder was dead, that was it. You know, we had a bad guy, now he's gone. It's going to be the Joker. He's going to be in every issue. But I think we both realized how much we loved that character. We had not completed a storyline with him, which then we finished in the Return to New York series, of course. But there was this idea. It was approached towards. I said, well, what if we did this story where we could sell 2 stories in this that were taking place the same night, which is Leonardo's basically fighting for his life, and there's no dialogue in any of those layouts, while the other turtles are at home preparing for this wonderful Christmas dinner and Christmas Eve, and they're all waiting for him to come home. And I think we both latched onto it as a concept, and it would be very unique in its approach. But you, because you penciled all the bottom stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah, because once we actually did, these are the pencil copies. So once we decided that this is how we were going to approach the story, then I would go through in a layout, whatever. This is page 5, for example. And so I would do this part, and then Pete would do the evolution of like what was going on with the different turtles. I'll show you another couple here, and it's lovely to see the pencils in these. And I think this is another one of those projects that I've got such great photocopies of the pencils of this work. And one of the things I had mentioned to Pete a few times when we visited recently, and said that, you know, the only version of this work that exists is this photocopy. And
you don't have that digitized or scanned?
No.
Oh
Pete's,
my God.
No,
Come
Pete's
on,
got,
dude. Come
yeah,
on,
Pete's
Kev.
got photocopies. I got photocopies. We were pretty aggressive. We kept, you know, good archives.
Let us scan those pages, bro.
And so I would love to see a version of, you know, because it's really, you know,
artist edition.
So we were like, you know, our shit was getting tight on this stuff. It's like, look at that.
Yeah,
You know,
this issue, I believe, has some of your best layout.
Definitely, you know, I'd stop directly ripping off Frank Miller instead of evolving into my own sort of, you know, no.
Can I ask if Bill Watterson was a influence at all? Because when you guys make the decision to have the turtles look very cute with the whenever they have their masks off, their eyes look cute. And then it's like a Spaceman Spiff from the Calvin and Hobbes. Calvin has like that kind of the black eyes, and then whenever he turns into his Spaceman Spiff character, it turns into like more menacing. I just want to say, like, as a fan, this is one of my favorite issues. It's a great issue. I read it to my kids. I read it because there is violence, but there's no blood and like hacking. I tell all the kids that the foot soldiers, you know, they're not like really human, so you can kill them and it's okay. But it's such a wonderful issue, and it's before Die Hard and Home Alone, but it has that vibe of we're trying to have like a wonderful Christmas thing, but like something more menacing is going on. I'm just curious, like if Calvin and Hobbes was an influence, or like where that Christmas story idea.
I think I can safely say that for both Kevin and myself, Calvin and Hobbes is a great thing. I mean, we both love that strip. I can't say for sure whether it had any influence on this issue of the Turtles, but maybe.
It might have been brand new.
Yeah, I was trying to think when it starts.
I think it starts in 86.
86.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but you know, one of the things, because when I'm now looking at one of the things that was such a great decision of approaching the story this way is you know, Pete's wonderful pencils and layouts, and then the way that Jim Lawson inked them. It really gave it this super. I'm trying to find what I was just looking. This very unique, very specifically different style.
Yeah.
And as you've already pointed out, guys, that, you know, we kept the duo shade on the top, which Pete and I inked together and duo shaded together, and then the bottom it had no duo shade. So when you look at like this great comparison of like page 9, which is like, I'm sorry, it's anyway.
Buy our books. Keep the videos coming to you on a regular basis. Jimmy has Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive, Street Angel Princess of Poverty, True Crime Funnies, 1986 zine, BW zine. Get those at his website. Hulk Grand Design, Treasury is out there. Trade paperback coming soon. I have Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus, X-Men Grand Design Trilogy, Red Room Crypto Killers comes out the end of February, Antisocial Network, Red Room Trigger Warnings, and the Switchblade Shorties comic strip coming to you online on a daily basis. Now that we're done showing off our books, get them, and back to the video.
You know, when you see Pete's original pencils, and then when you see how Jim, you know, inked them, it's just very unique and cute and very different from the rest, but not so different that you don't go, hey, it's complete. You know, I don't know. It was one of those happy accidents that
you get to breathe when you see that. When you, for someone who's like not into turtles, like that different. It's different enough where it makes, you know, like when I read it to like my daughter, or they're like, oh, I like this part, and the scary part doesn't scare them away. It's enough to keep you in the story.
It is the part that is
really
lost.
You know.
I was just going to say it is the part that it is lost in the first comics reprints with the color, because they do drop out the duotone and it's not colored in a different way to separate the two. So it's not apparent that way. You really got to kind of check it out in this black and white version.
No, and it was, and I think, when I go back to and Pete, correct me, I think when we made that decision that Leonardo would lead into 10 and 11, we had a pretty solid idea of what we wanted to tell in issue 10 and 11, which was we consciously made the decision of all these stories and things taking place in New York City, and we wanted to take a chance to get away from that and bring them to Northampton, Massachusetts. And so that was the whole move into the country and the whole thing that led to a whole wonderful series of stories right in our own backyard, which was more directly, creatively was influenced by stories that we could tell. The Quabbin Reservoir. It was a very specific decision that we wanted them out of the city.
Right.
It's an amazing bit of choreography between the top and bottom sequence. Like both pieces are incredibly well choreographed and so different from one another. Even it reminds me, like going back to the cover, what we were saying about the contrast between those figures in the foreground and the background. It carries through this whole issue. Like it really is an exceptional issue.
Good transitions too, because sometimes the dialogue will lead into the next part of the Leonardo sequence, which is very sharp storytelling chops. No pun intended.
I told Pete I was I actually got really good at throwing ninja stars because of the turtles. And asking like the reference for the guns, reference for the women. Like back then when I was getting like Ninja magazine or the martial arts magazines, in the back of the page it has the ads for like all the weapons you can get. So as a kid, there it is.
Choe's book.
You see the drywall. You see the drywall on the tips. Like I was. But in this issue of Leonardo, you have every single ninja weapon that was in the back of those magazines, where I would see them and go, "How would you use that?" And I see them all being used: the claws, the bow and arrow. Like, were you guys? What was the reference for the ninja weapons? Were you getting those magazines?
I honestly can't recall.
Like, how do you know how they were used? You guys were using it on each other, or like?
Well, I know that's.
The action is amazing in this issue.
The silent part up top is.
There we go. Get it, Kevin.
No, it's like
ninja sword.
my studio is full of shit. And I think one of the things that I recall is in some of the bookstore hunts and things that Pete and I did is I remember buying a bunch of books like how-to martial arts how-to books, and a lot of them had visual references, and they would have how to use different weapons, and the bamboo thing to breathe underwater, and the climbing claws and things, and I think that was just some of the influences, and certainly from a plethora of martial arts magazines or even martial arts movies that we saw and sort of figured out. So I think that was just, and for the choreography, I think certainly for this fight, I feel like that it was part of it was sort of building on the knowledge of the skills that the turtles were taught by Splinter, and it didn't go just beyond Leonardo just using his swords or Donatello just using his staff or whatever, that they had other skills. I think it was, who's to say, when you look back at this stuff, it's like you're looking at through rose-colored glasses sometimes, and you think like, oh yeah, that's what we were thinking then, and it's like, well,
the effect of that is you influenced my taste in women, my ninja skills, like all those things affected me. And here's this page is what foreshadowing for Last Ronin right there.
It's also an example of, like, we've seen all the different weapons that are being used in this fight scene. Now we're seeing the ninja skills, right? Like pull this cloak or this blanket out of the snow in the dumpster and the garbage there, so that you can then walk on the streets as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle and continue following your targets. It really is that showcase of like everything you can think of for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle training or whatever. It's all in this sequence.
Kevin, I do want to bring up, you mentioned there was another story that you guys did before this that a silent strip, and if it's the same one I'm thinking, it's from Anything Goes, the Fantagraphics fundraiser book, and it's like an 8-pager where the turtles are running to go catch a drive-in movie of the alien or aliens.
Yep.
And that is my first Fantagraphics comic that I ever got. I got it at a hardware store of all places, because when the distributors go away, like stores just buy up chunks of comics, and it had the turtles on the cover. That is my first Fantagraphics comic. It has ads for the complete Crumb comics in there, and it has a 4-page Crumb story on top of like whatever else kind of stuff they have. And then, they're my publisher. Like I have dozens of books with them, and I was introduced to that brand by you guys by way of the turtles, man. So just wanted to put that note into the mixture.
I love to, let me point out 2 quick things and then Pete jump in, is one of the things I love. And I've seen Gary Groth a few times. And one of my favorite things to say is like, Gary, you're a very unique individual and a very unique person. And
I think Kevin's way of insulting people is calling them unique.
But I just say that not once in your entire fucking life, Gary Groth, have you ever acknowledged that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that Peter and I created is the greatest, most successful independent comic book of all time. He refuses to have those words come out of his mouth because something bothers him about that. I don't know what it is. But again, I love him, and he's an interesting character, and it's funny, but it is like, but it's one of those things that like, he's a champion of rights and creator rights and this kind of stuff. And like, you look at the 2 guys you're talking to right now who are influenced by all things comics, self-published, and went to there is not one single comic character, one single comic creation that has accomplished and done what Peter and I had done. And so I tease him and I go, "You've never admitted that." And he just smiles and he'll walk away. But
that's Uncle Gary.
And he also says ninja funny.
Well, he's from Washington State. I don't know. No, I'm kidding. No, but it's funny. What I loved about that particular issue of Anything Goes is both Peter and I were big fans of Alien, and we didn't want to get sued by Fox or anything, so we did this really fun cover. I penciled and Pete inked, and I might have painted, or Steve Levine painted. I can't remember. Or Pete, you might have painted it. But it was that cover where the turtles were dressed as Colonial Marines.
Yeah.
You see the alien. What's that?
I have that original.
That's an awesome piece. Did you paint that? I think you painted that, right?
I don't think I did.
You don't think you did? I know you inked it. Obviously you inked it, but it was like, I couldn't remember who painted it, but it's great. And the way that the logo was done, you see like the turtles, one of the turtles is a front with, they're all firing their pulse weapons or whatever at this thing just off camera, but you see the shadow of the alien, and part of it's covered by the logo and stuff. So that was the closest I think we would come to doing our homage to a great movie.
And there was a turtle, one of the turtles in like a cardboard cosplay costume in one of those issues, right? Is that the one?
That was we did that in a role-playing game. It was a Halloween.
I remember that.
Was that in the second role-playing game? We did that 8-page story.
Possibly.
It was an 8-page story where they all got dressed up for Halloween. And
yeah. You're right. That's in the role-playing game. That's what
there's a great panel of one of them dressed like. So we felt like we could get away with it because they would dress it. It was a turtle dressed in a costume.
The Ben Cooper costumes.
Yeah,
we're wrapping up, Jimmy.
I was gonna say the other awesome part of like this wordless sequence is watching Leonardo sort of getting worn down. We see his sword break. Like there's a real sense of progression of like, man, this fight is taking more and more out of him.
Dude, I fucking gasp when he falls into the junkyard and all the like I'm like, oh, he's about to get his ass kicked or die. It gets me.
The ninjas are great as they come in and out, right? Like here he is with the Leonardo back against the fence. Those ninjas are now coming up from behind the fence. Like you think he's secured his backside, but of course he hasn't, because there are ninjas everywhere.
That was really the lead up to what we wanted to that. I'll see if I can pull up the pencil page because it's a really fantastic pencil series of pages. Yeah, this is which was our big cliffhanger for the issue, which was so this is page 29.
This page is so cool because those 3 panels. It's like all 3 of those panels is 1 second of time. Like each panel is like a 0.33 of 1 second.
Yep. And so we wanted to lead up to this big dramatic moment. So like, so you basically, when you see page 30, which is the final thing where it's like, everybody gather around and it's like, Leonardo's just been thrown through the window and he says he's back, and it's the shredder, and that was our end. That was a cliffhanger for that, which led directly into issue 10, which brings back one of my favorite. And when we get into that, when that 3-page fold out Pete and I did, we're in the junk shop where Casey Jones returns.
Amazing.
And all that.
Yeah, amazing, man. Like staring at the background details of that panel, that 3-pager was fantastic.
This is such an awesome sequence.
Yeah,
just
this is amazing.
And I can't help but think that there's some Dark Knight Returns energy to this piece.
Yeah, definitely influenced with the Munhall a bit.
I'd like to point out that panel at the top of page 27 on the right-hand side was toned and maybe even partially inked by Steve Bissett.
Wanted to ask what his contribution was to this.
Wow.
Wow.
You can kind of see his hand on some of the pages. He kind of jumped from page to page. But I've always thought that panel right there is a really good indication of how skilled he was at using that stuff, using that dual shade.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was because we actually if you look at you go back to the title page, the where it says what goes around comes around. And it lists both Steve Bissett and Mike Dooney, because Mike Dooney had come up and he was helping with a bunch of the final inking on that, Pete, I know, as you recall. And then Steve Bissett, we gave him credit. But it basically says an Eastman, Laird, Bissett, Dooney, Lawson, Brown, Levine production. So it was definitely a full all hands on deck for that particular one.
How about this progression from like a relatively light spread here in our opening to by the time we get to the end, it's just gray and just ink everywhere. Like things are getting darker and darker as this sequence progresses.
Yeah, this book works for me so much better as black and white than color, because when I read this, I always just interpret it as when he finally ends up on the last page, just covered in blood. And at the time I pictured his blood as like green, like dark green blood. But then once I saw it in color, and better for the kids. But once I saw it, I was like, oh, he's about to get effed up in this pit. Like I don't even know how he survived that.
Fantastic build too for Splinter coming back, or for Shredder coming back, where it's like we see just a glimpse. We don't dwell on it. We don't oversell it. It's just this moment of horror, and then the aftermath of what that actually means.
And see, this is what I'm talking about, where it's 1 second and you add to it with the sound effect, where like it takes all 3 panels for the sound effect to even finish. And you never it's such a good piece of storytelling. I've never seen that done before.
That was, a couple of funny things. And actually I got a funny thing for Pete. I was talking to Steve Barron recently, Pete, who sends his love and says hello. Steve Barron, who directed the first Turtle movie, he's doing an event in early March at the in a theater, Leicestershire Theater in London, where he's doing a Q&A after they're doing a screening of the movie. But one of the things that was great to talk to him about was just a few moments where that scene that he did in Leonardo, when Pete and I first met Steve, we were really struggling with what was going to happen with the movie. But when we met Steve, he brought along one of the soft covers that had Pete's cover on it of the entire series. And he'd gone through and he had made little Post-it notes all the way through the soft cover, pointing out specific scenes from the original Turtle comics that then were adapted into the movie. So that whole scene with Leonardo being thrown into the window, if you remember in the movie, it's Raphael being thrown through the skylight into the second time around shot, which was so Steve actually literally went through and picked specific scenes that Pete and I had already did. He said the story's here, and these moments I've chosen are based on what you did already, and that's our movie. You know, from going out to the farmhouse that we did in issue 10, what happens, the return to New York, which then came later in the Return to New York series. But anyway, I just want to pass on. I was, I've kept in touch with Steve over the years, and just touched base with him recently, and he made sure to pass on the very best to you, Pete.
Thank you.
When that
out of curiosity, just for myself, as I read these and I go back through it, I think it's Pete, but is one of you guys a foodie chef cook guy that enjoys that? I think it's Pete because I'm picking up a lot of food references, but who's adding that, you know?
I would not say I'm a foodie. I don't think that's a good description of me. Maybe I'm wrong.
But do you like cooking and
when I do it, I like it, but I don't do it very often.
you do or you don't do it very often?
Mainly because my wife is a very good cook.
Oh, I see. Because it's like sweet and sour turkey. You got the chopping the carrots on your issue. You got the hummus, and like there's a lot of food reference happening. And like someone either it's one of you guys likes to eat or likes cooking, or you know.
I think.
Go ahead.
I think we both like to eat. You can tell from our shape.
Fantastic intuition.
As a funny kind of a side note is one of the jobs I had in high school after school was I worked in a pizza place, Louis Variety, which actually is some of it ties into the Turtles 14 episode. But the guy I worked for at the pizza place after school, he said, because he knew I did a bunch of artwork for menus and stuff at the shop, and he knew I wanted to be an artist, and he said, what's fantastic about working in a place where you learn to cook and there's food, you should, especially if you want to be an artist or if you like to take girls out on dates, is you can save your money by eating at the restaurant you work at or cooking and stuff, so you have more money to buy art supplies or to spend on a movie night date with your special friend. And it's funny because when we were living in Dover, New Hampshire, when we created the Turtles, I had a job at a restaurant in town called Horse Feathers, which was a very good average sort of bar food type restaurant, chicken, finger foods and great burgers and all that kind of stuff. So I always had a job at a restaurant because I could eat there and save money for art supplies.
Nice, great artist tip.
Yeah, and it taught me a few cooking skills.
One last note on one of the great moments in this comic, I think, is having the mask off, because it really gets a sense of like they're not ready for this.
Perfect. Yeah.
They're in a state of relaxation. Like this has completely changed everything, and that's hard to represent visually. And I feel like you kind of do it by having the Turtles in different states of readiness.
And the loyalty of April, just being like, April, you can leave. Like, this ain't your fight. And she's like, you guys are family now. Like, I'm in it. I'm ride or die. That was emotional for me too. So
yeah, as we get deeper into the other issues, like she really starts to have stakes in the game when the shop burns down and they got to go to the farmhouse and stuff. Flip the pages. It would be cool just to see where Mirage is at this point in time. So you got the Dooney book, you got Bade Biker, and then would something like this pinup page just be something that came in with a fan mail, or you guys commissioned that?
Well, usually that's what it would happen.
What's that? Commission or fan mail?
Okay.
Yeah,
I think that it's funny that what I love about when people ask me, and I'm sure Pete's been asked numerous times what their favorite version of the Turtles is over the years, and if they don't say it, like besides the work that you and Peter did, I will always say, well, it's the work that Pete and I did, because I look at issues 1 through 11, including the 4, the one shots, which basically takes it up to basically 15 issues. When you look at the work that was done in those 15 issues, that is especially as you brought it up, guys, the family aspect that we really, I think, took home in a big way in issues 10 and 11. April and Casey being fully involved in the quote unquote core group of the family, the adoptive family, the family group. And so I feel like if you think to almost every version of the Turtles done since those first issues includes all those components, everything that Pete and I, the foundation that was constructed, that we built, however intentionally and non-intentionally as we felt our way through it, that is all things Turtles. It's the heart and soul that was created there, that you see in every version of the Turtles right now to the most recent version, even the Seth Rogen remake, or something like The Last Ronin or other things. It still is all based on, and that was my intent with Last Ronin, with what Pete and I wrote as original story and how I was able to adapt it into what it became. It was still based on that original Mirage Studios. I sort of disregarded everything else and took it back to the heart and soul of what Pete and I did initially. But that's it. That's the core. Those issues and the issues that we'll continue to talk about through we get to the ones that Pete and I did, is that's the core, the heart and soul of the family that is stuck with every version of the Turtles for the last 40 years. And I think the ones that embraced it, certainly like, say, the 2007 movie, which Pete worked on more intensely and directly than I did, it still has that core dynamic that makes that story work. The ones that don't have that dynamic, I don't think they don't work for me, so to speak, as well. But it is that's the heart and soul, and that's the genius of Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird.
Fantastic. Hey, Dave, do you got any final questions before we wrap this session up?
The accidental genius of Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, or Peter Eastman.
I'm during all of this, I've just been trying my best to, even though I'm dressed like this, whatever, I'm just trying to stay present, because, I'm sure it'll hit me later because I'm kind of disassociating that what's actually happening. Like, you guys are my heroes, like in every aspect, just the self-publishing, being friends, making beautiful art together and taking the jokes so far, and your commitment to it. And then even with all the success, there's so many more questions, but just how you lived your life. Like, Peter, I'm not trying to say anything insulting, but like, Peter was older and maybe spent, I didn't know about the motorcycles till later, but starting something like the Zurich Ran, I'm like, oh, if I ever make money, I'm gonna do my own version of that, where I give money away. And then, oh, here's Eastman, more reckless, like dating Playboy models, penthouse models, and then making companies like Tundra. And like, so I kind of did both. Like, I wanted to live that life. You guys were role models to me. So I just want to say this morning, he's like, you guys made my year. It's my absolute, like, I'm so honored that you guys let me sit in on this. So I feel blessed and grateful for that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, let me do one funny teaser, because this will lead into, as soon as when we're able to schedule the next time we chat, which we should definitely start with Donatello. And Pete's aware of this, and I think it's been announced out there officially, but the Kirby issue, the Donatello Kirby issue, is it's still one of my all-time favorite Turtle stories. Not only Pete's cover, but just the whole thing just works. But we've been lucky enough with NECA Toys, who have been doing this wonderful line of Mirage Studios toys, that we actually are going to have a fully realized Jack Kirby toy that's going to come out this summer, based on the original designs and drawings and everything that we did in that series. So this is I just got this in like literally 2 days ago. I've got one to send to Pete. But so yeah, this is.
Can I say something about that? Like, I think I told Ed and Jim last time, but Donatello, as a kid on the playground, only reading superhero and G.I. Joe, Donatello was the first Turtles comic I ever read. Like, this guy Houghton brought it to school, and it was oversized. And I was like, well, or it wasn't oversized. It was a little bit big. I just, the cover was what blew me away. I couldn't believe the name, the title, and that's crazy that you made the toy. I always assumed, because I didn't know who Jack Kirby was at the time. But I always assumed in that book when I was reading it, once again, it's a black and white. I thought he was black, but it was Jack. It was supposed to be Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like so blown away when you showed the toy right now. I was like, oh, I always thought
No, it is
a Donatello comic. I thought it was a black guy, but
no. I mean, even the whole Donatello concept is really spearheaded by Pete. We're both very passionate about Jack Kirby and the idea that he was going through some legal battles with Marvel on rights and trademarks and things. And, you know, we just love the guy, and we've written a number of letters. I've got letters from them and pictures, but this idea that we would do this thing and donate the profits, but the family was 100% like, you know, Jack, I get the letter from Ross saying, yes, you can use the turtles and, you know, you can use Jack in the thing if they gave us permission. But when we did this toy, it was done very specifically. I reached back out to the family, and so we got their permission to do it. So the toy's being done with the permission. Proceeds from it will go to the Kirby estate and to further the Kirby Museum and all things. So they just, you know, Jack most of all. And I think the last time Pete and I were together, and Mike Dooney was there, and we were all visiting. We were talking about the moment we all got to hang out with Jack Kirby for those brief seconds that seemed like, you know, that we savored on. That I think he referred to us in. I'm sure it wasn't to just us. It was to a lot of people that admired him, as you are all my sons. And but he was so respectful of people that admired him, that were inspired by him. Because he was his own man. He was his own creator. He told the stories that he wanted to tell. He did things the way he wanted to do. And it was, to him, it was all about the story. It was all about the characters. It was all about the art. And that's the love and the inspiration that we got from him. And that was, I think that really helped drive our passion. So to see something like this come full circle after all these years that we get to do,
it is pretty amazing.
Something as a tribute to the king, and it meant so much to us. Is just really an absolute treat.
And there's no exaggeration when I say, without Jack Kirby, there would be no turtle. I think both Kevin and I would not have wanted to go into comics the way we had if it were not for Kirby.
1,000,000%. It was just like.
I think that's a fantastic place to leave it with one final question, and it's Uncle Kevin, Uncle Peter. Can we do this again sometime?
Like, get rid of this fucking guy.
For me, this was 1,000%, 1,000,000% enjoyable. Whenever Pete wants to, you know, whenever I'm happy to jump on anytime. This is really fun. I enjoy it thoroughly.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me sit in, guys.
Boom, there it is. Appreciate it, guys.
Look forward to talking to you again sometime.
Kayfabers, like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the bell so that we can notify you when new videos are available. We are on the road to 100,000 subscribers. Thank you very much. And if you get anything out of these videos, if you dig what we produce, make sure that you follow the channel, and it helps us out a lot to have a good subscriber base. The videos are ultimately brought to you by the books that we make, but we have a Patreon, and the Patreon is there for you to mitigate the kayfabe effect. Become one of our biggest supporters, and you get all the videos before anybody else. You also have access to the live stream recording session as we produce these videos. Link in the description below for the Patreon. We have more than 1,700 videos out there, and we might have talked about some of your favorite comics, so make sure you hit the magnifying glass on the front page of the Kayfabe YouTube channel. Check out the channel, pop in your favorite titles, check out those episodes. If we haven't talked about your favorite comics, then by all means put something in the comments so that we can push those books a little bit higher on our to-read piles. Ultimately, the videos are brought to you by the books that we make. Right now, I've been working on Switchblade Shorties, which is my daily comic strip. You can find it on all of our social media platforms, the Kayfabe stuff, my own personal social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. There's a dedicated Switchblade Shorties Instagram, and it's also on Webtoon in its full archive. The Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus is going quick, and it is $45 on Amazon at the moment. So scoop it up if you haven't. It's almost freaking half off, so you can't beat that with a stick. Best book I made to date. X-Men Grand Design Trilogy trade paperback. Contains all of my X-Men Grand Design works. It's the one place where you could get it all inside of one handy dandy cover. Red Room Crypto Killers is coming out at the end of February, part of a trilogy of trade paperbacks, but you don't need to start with the first one because each contains 4 self-contained stories. So if you grab this first, Crypto Killers, then at a later time you could read the Antisocial Network or Trigger Warnings. Jimmy, why don't you let the people know what's out there?
I have Street Angel, Deadliest Girl Alive, and Street Angel, Princess of Poverty, both available right now from Image Comics. These are also self-contained totally. One is black and white, one is full color. The Homeless Ninja on a Skateboard, perfect for the action comics or superhero comics fan in your life. The big news for me is the self-published comics, True Crime Funnies, the 1986 zine, and the BW zine celebrating the 80s black and white explosion. These are self-published. You can get them on my website, jimrugg.com, or my Patreon, patreon.com/jimrugg. They've been out of print and unavailable. They will be back and available March 6th. So if you missed those, March 6th, you can pick those up. And Hulk Grand Design. This is a treasury-sized edition, out of print. However, the trade paperback coming out in May this year, and that is available now for pre-order. So let Marvel know they need to keep these things in print by pre-ordering that one wherever you pre-order books.
The books are the most important way to kind of keep things on the tracks. But there are some direct ways to support Cartoonist Kayfabe. Jimmy, let the people know.
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe e-newsletter at the links below this video. You can also pick up Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts, merchandise, hats, stickers, and more at our spread shop. That link is also under this video.
There you have it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, support the channel, keep the vids rocking. Jimmy, give them final marching orders, and we'll be on our way.
Read more comics.